Nigeria declared a 14-day lockdown in major cities in the country on March 29 to stem the virus spread. Nigeria has so far recorded 407 cases of COVID-19 with 12 deaths and 128 recoveries.
First thing I thought was we're all gonna die because it's a virus, so I wasn't even sure how we were going to curb it. So we actually renovated a few weeks before COVID hit. So we closed in 17th of February to reopen back March 17th, so we closed for a whole month. When we opened back up, COVID had just started creeping up all over the world as a global pandemic, and within 4 days I had to shut down. So here I am lumped with debt from the renovations, and you can imagine the uncertainty I was crippled with, not even knowing what to do because the research was quite confusing, information was all over the place. Financially, we couldn't cope for a little bit. Our staff were so nervous. You know, people were scared. Were they going to lose their jobs? Were they not? So the first month of COVID, after we closed, was literally a lot of research. But in terms of how it affected us, we're still going through its effect. We're not out of the woods yet. I still have a lot of staff at home waiting to be pulled off furlough. I'm still having to pay stipends to this staff. We're still not back 100% salary potential for every single person in the business. So there are a lot of effects, so to speak. It affected livelihoods, it affected businesses, it affected the mentality of people, it affected sustainability, it affected processes. So our procurement department literally went through hell trying to pick back up from where we left off. But on the plus side, we were forced to start a new model and start providing takeaway services. So I don't want to say it was all bad, but I guess my biggest thing is, yes, I know it's affected us a lot, but I don't want to focus on that because so many world phenomena have happened over time. So I guess my biggest thing is to be grateful, happy that we get to live and keep pushing through, really. And I'm happy it's brought all of us closer together and more sensitive towards what each person goes through.
Preparing to reopen after the COVID lockdown was quite interesting because you go through a whole range of emotions, from being excited that you are about to reopen and also being quite anxious about the future.
The underlying question was, what sort of world are we going into? Like now we all have to wear masks, things that, we never really thought. If someone said we'll be wearing masks across Africa or across Nigeria, I mean, like...
Preparing to reopen was very detailed for us. So we had to have a lot of meetings as partners. We had to get a managing partner on board. We had to categorize our staffs very clearly into essential, support and furlough. We had to work on a new menu.
Because, when we do reopen, it's not going to be the same as before we closed, because the entire environment is different. What your clients are going to require is different.
It was very important we understood that a lot of things had changed, so people were eating differently, people were thinking differently, and people were appreciating life differently.
There was always a question for us as to whether to build that takeaway business or not, and we kept on kicking that down the line. COVID was a good opportunity to actually do that, and I can say the team did a fantastic job at that.
So yeah, hectic, stressful, but we got there in the end. In terms of the house and what plans we have put to remain safe during this period, we have automated temperature checks outside the gate. We actually give all our customers disposable mask if they don't come in with their actual mask. You're not allowed to take it off till you start dining or you're in your safe space with your people. Luckily, our business is quite very conceptual, so we have a lot of private rooms and bookings because it's a social house. So luckily, most people who come here also come with groups of people anyway, so we're able to provide them a safe space with their team. From our staff always making sure they're covered up all around the building. We have automated dispensers that secrete sanitizers all over the building as well. We had to construct a hand wash basin outside our building.
Interestingly enough, I think the house has always been a bit extra when it comes to safety. The government gave us guidelines which we needed to follow, so we do those, but I cannot tell you the government's guidelines were over and on top things we already did anyway, because again, I think we're generally extra with these things. So in terms of safety, we continue to prioritize our guests' experience without compromising their safety.
If we feel like anyone is unsafe at any moment, we literally have to have a safe moment where a staff goes through the policy and the COVID process again with that customer or our staff. We also appointed 2 staff members to become our COVID officers, so to speak, and their jobs is to ensure all of us, including the founders and the back office, are compliant. Everyone now has 2 masks, reusable, gloves, visors, and personal hand sanitizer. So every staff member of mine always has these items with them at every point in time. We had training from external parties, train our staff on COVID.
"2020 is a great year, because first of all, I'm still alive.
If this year hasn't taught me anything, it's to focus on my health, and then everything else will come right after that.
If 2020 has taught us anything, it should have taught us that we need to appreciate everything we have.
I'd go for good, or rather I'd say blessed. It's been a blessed year.
So no, I do not believe 2020 has been a bad year. I believe 2020 has been a great year, and it's going to be an even greater year because there's still so much to come.
I think 2020 would be a good, fantastic year. For those who have seized the opportunity, I hope and pray everybody, we would all look back and say, oh, wow, that seemed like a very challenging year. And, you know, while we lost a lot of good things, a lot of good people, this is what came out of it.
I'm sorry for everyone who lost someone this period. I'm sorry for everyone who lost their business this period. I'm sorry for everyone who found it very tough to go through this period. But together, we can still make it a good year.